John.
Yeah, so we kind of jumped in and started talking about a bunch of complex things, but I know that we do like to appeal kind of to your everyday individual, your American, and Griffin, you're like a living, walking success story. You know, you've done great. I think I remember you posting in the chat one time that you just paid off your like parents' debt or something of that sort.
I did.
Yeah, paid off your parents' debt. Yeah, and I just kind of want to start from the beginning. Tell us like what you did. You know, I know it started with the investor chat that Claude and I created. Yeah. And we invited everybody. I don't even know how half the people got invited in there. I think people just started adding other people. Yeah. But what was the learning process? What was the curve for you?
Definitely the hardest thing for me to realize is that there's always something to learn in the market. And we're, you know, even though I've been trading now for over a year and a half, I've still learned, you know, maybe the tip of the iceberg in my, you know, longevity here as a trader. And so my part was being satisfied with where I was at in my education. And so I was a very basic investor when I had first gotten started. I started with my bar mitzvah money. Actually started with $4,000, and I hopped into Aurora Cannabis.
That was the first cannabis stock I ever got. When I first started on Robinhood, like almost 10 years ago now, man, ACB was where it was at. Yep. Or ACB.
And it you know, it was great. I was up maybe, you know, $600, and all of a sudden that February of 2020 market little dip, and I lost, you know, maybe $1,600 from my original investment. And you know, I luckily I held, and it got to the point where, you know, I made my money back and I was holding, and then, you know, just kept coming the bad news about this stock, and you know, I just kept losing and losing. I wasn't, you know, first ever stock I'd ever invested in.
I feel your pain. I was there too. I remember that phase.
Yeah. And then they had their reverse split, and so as soon as they had the reverse split, where they took back their shares, and you know, so if I had 500 shares, I then had maybe 150, and so, you know, with that 150, there was a little jump in price, and I ended up selling for, you know, a small loss, luckily. And then I just decided I didn't want to trade like that. I didn't really understand this long-term investing at the time. And so I'm like, I want to make a quicker buck with this. And so I started doing my due diligence, and I looked, and, you know, I ended up, I guess, day trading in a sense. And so I'd find like, you know, where, you know, Tesla had some good news, and I put my money in back when they had first reached $300. I was in at that point. You know, I had a great day. I made like $200-300. I'm like, okay, this is great. This is amazing.
Was this during the 2-for-1?
What?
Was this for during the, I think it was the 2-for-1 split that
they had just done their split. Yeah. It was the 5-1 split when they reached
oh, it was 5-1.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and they were riding high. And
now, so, before we go, I don't want to interrupt. Griffin, will y'all explain for us and the viewers real quick what you mean by a split? So I know you're referring to two different ways, both either splitting it up or splitting it down. But for everybody, could you put in layman's terms real quick what you mean by a stock split when a company does that for volume purposes?
Yeah, so normally, well, when a stock gets to a really high value, like $2,500, like Tesla did, it becomes very unattainable to the average investor. So what these companies do is they do what's called a stock split that, you know, makes it more affordable to the average investor for their long-term portfolios, which was, you know, very considerate of the company, and it allowed me to invest in Tesla at the time. So after that, you know, stock split, I had pretty nice gains. I was looking for more, and so I happened to come across options investing, and so
SPACs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I actually, before I got into your group chat with Claude and you, I was looking at Tesla calls at the time. I had I was looking at, it was like it was a January 15th call, and it was about maybe August at the time. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I have about $8,000 in my portfolio. Everything okay? Oh.
Yeah. I think it froze for a second. Keep going. 8,000 in your portfolio.
Yeah, 8,000 in my portfolio. I'm like, okay, I have just enough for this long-term call. And so I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't even look at any YouTube videos or anything. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Put my money in there because I thought stocks only went up. And
so you went all in, no research or no due diligence in it.
Nothing. I just saw that this stock was, doing well. I thought, hey, if it's doing this well, it'll keep going in the long term. And so yeah, and so I gave myself like 5 months. And so it was a few months go by. It was maybe beginning of September, middle of September, and that contract went from $8,000 all the way down to $2,000.
Oh.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
The story was going the opposite direction. I
thought stocks only went up.
Wait, so what happened to me happened to you on an even larger scale.
Yes.
And you kept going. I stopped.
We got the order Griffin like a coffee mug that says that, quote unquote, I thought stocks only went up.
Hey, moon or boom. Moon or boom, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. And so I ended up selling in that point. I was really distressed. I thought I was gonna give myself a little income for the holidays. And so I was looking for a way to make that money back, and that's when I had actually joined your group chat. I got invited from my other friend, whose name actually happens to be Griffin, and you guys were talking about HCAC, and so I'm like, okay, I've got $2,000 left. Let's just put it all into HCAC. Why not? One last.
Oh, what a yellow canoe!
Yeah. As you can tell, I was an intelligent investor back then.
Dude, we all
one that you were in, right?
Solely off of Noah.
Yeah, and so there was, I didn't even, back then, then after I made my loss, I started looking into options contracts. I was watching all the YouTube videos, articles I could read. It was, I was learning a lot back then. And so I bought 53 contracts of HCAC.
Holy shit.
At $33 a contract. And I sold at a $20,000 gain. And so the peak of HCAC, I think, hit $785 per contract. I had a friend who, was new to investing as well. And I'm like, hey, why don't you put in a contract or two? It's $33. And so he did that, and he sold at $780.
Yeah, I think when I started, I did like Norwegian Cruise Line, Southwest. I did a spider fund gold GLD, and I made like basic returns off of it. But when I started with HCHC or Hennessy Capital Acquisitions, I had I think I put $200 in at the time. I think it was like 70 a contract, and it was a 1750 strike price because that's what everybody was doing. And I think we did it like a month out. And then, oh my goodness, dude! When it went up, it was like a party, in the chat.
Oh,
we were all going crazy. I turned like close to $200 into I think it was like $3,000, pretty much over the course of a week.
I've heard this story before, John. This is epic.
Yeah, and so that actually started up my trading career. I was working at a fast food chain, Chick-fil-A, at the time. And it was October 13th. I went to my manager. I'm like, hey, I'm not coming into work again. I'm not coming into work. I just sold HCAC and made my money. And I'm like, okay, I'm I don't need to work anymore. And so I just, I thought my strategy could just now be trading SPACs. I'm like, okay, let me do some research. Like, I was looking at IPOC, PIC, IPOC is by Kamath Palali, whatever that.
Yeah, what were the Kamath ones? I forgot what they were.
Yeah,
IPOC. IPOC.
Yeah, I was in IPOE before they became SoFi, and so I was trading so many of these SPAC companies, and I got ridiculous returns. Like I said, I thought stocks only went up. I thought I had this strategy. I thought this was gonna work. I was making more money than my parents combined at the time. I was
cool feeling. And how old were you?
I was just turned 19. Wow. I made more money than my parents. I paid off all of their debt, and I even bought a hot tub for $10,000.
Shut up and take my money.
Griffin, hold on. The real question I want to ask though is:
he's seeing our responsibilities, working at Chick-fil-A, he's taking care of his parents' debt, and then he just goes on and get a hot tub too. Yeah. How baller!
Hold on though. What did your taxes look like on those short-term capital gains?
So
I messed you up though.
So for my,
I assume if he was this smart, he shielded himself from taxes.
Yeah. So I got very lucky, and most of my gains actually are going to be for this year. So I'm gonna have a lot of hell. I speak every day with my accountant, and both on crypto and stock investments. But last year, it only recorded HCAC, fortunately. And so I only had to pay about $2,700 off of my $20,000 gain.
Oh, Griffin, you can get a fake identity for cheaper than that and start.
Yeah, right.
Accounts under fake identities that the IRS will never find when the capital gain. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I'm actually going to pull John's disclaimer here and say I'm not giving financial advice on that one.
Okay. Nice. There you go.
All right, so this is good, guys. I appreciate both y'all bringing this stuff up. Next question I have for y'all on this matter. So, Griffin, you bring up a good point when you were talking with John. Taxes, accounting thing. Nowadays, most people at least have, heard some of the popular stereotypical tax write-offs, like, if you have a kid or a house, there's a tax deduction, or, some of the basic things like, if you're new in business and you start a new business, you should have more, deductions and write-offs to help shield you from income in your first few years. I know John and I have talked about that some on this show. What we haven't touched on, though, is what are some of the able or, reachable popular deduction methods for capital gains on crypto and stocks like you were just talking about? I know you said you talk to your accountant every day, but this is such a new thing, crypto thing like that, like we opened with. So what are some of the methods that our government has in the tax code to be able to help hardworking Americans, shield their rightfully earned revenue from the IRS, who quite frankly doesn't deserve to have it and also doesn't steward it well once it's in their hands?
Yeah, so what's helped me a lot is so now I have long-term stocks from those, from all of my gains, which I'm very fortunate for. And what I was able to do is actually take out a loan. I'm on M1 Finance, and so they gave me a very nice loan using my long-term stocks as collateral. And so it gives me a small, interest rate, which I pay every month, which I use my stock and crypto gains to pay that off, which I can also, I also have long-term crypto. I've got my Bitcoin bag, I've got my Ethereum bag, and I go on my Celsius app and I take out loans on those. And so I'm getting collateral, I use my Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral. I'm not paying for the gains because I now have debt put onto me. And now I can, I can get the gains from my Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now I can take that loan money and either give myself some money, some income for my month-to-month, or I can put more of my, that loan money into, some small cap projects that I can work on.
That's an interesting point you bring up when you were talking about the M1 Finance and the Celsius app, Griffin. So now, are these services? I mean, I'm familiar with them. People for a long time have been lending money out for people to make stock trades off of. Try not to do that. Is that an accessible service to the average person? Because like circling back to what John said a moment ago, we want to make things simple because not everybody is on your level of finance.
Yes.
And so for people who want to get there, do you have to have like ridiculous credit, or is there usually a minimum threshold of collateral that you have in active stock holdings? Or so how does the underwriting work for that to be able to get approved to get access to capital to trade off of?
Yeah, so I know I didn't really look too much into the restrictions, but I think for Celsius you have to have at least $10,000 in Bitcoin or Ethereum in order to take out that loan, and you normally get 50% of your collateral back. So for every 10,000 I'm getting 5,000 back.
That's actually good news though, because for the longest time, in America, brokerage companies or financial companies didn't mess with you or didn't treat you like you were a player unless you had 25,000.
Yes.
And for a lot of even bigger companies, if you want to look at like the Merrill Lynch's, or not even Merrill Lynch, but what's the really hoity-toity firm? Ernst & Young, people like that. You're going to be needing to look at like over 2 million, initial investment, or at least 250,000. And so it's really cool to see that there are, as you said, apps, services that are accessible to people who can't get in firms like Ernst & Young or Merrill, or, and have an advisor that's, a hedge fund manager that's managing your pot. Because 10,000 is a pretty low number. I know not everybody has access to 10 grand. But comparatively, most people have 10 grand somewhere, whether it's in a retirement plan or in a 401k that something that even factory workers can work in a factory in America for 30 years and retire with 100 grand in a 401k. 100 grand is not a lot of money, but if you wanted to get into this, you could pull, like you said, 10 grand of that money to get access to lending ability. And if you follow these principles, or if you follow the advice on Accomplished Incorporated out there on Discord, you could bring these ideas to life. So this is why I'm so excited about it.
That's insane how quick it went for you too.
It literally changed my life.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank y'all for being here with us today. Y'all, this is Weekly Wallet Wagers. Keep following John, Griffin, and I for more. We will be back with this, y'all. We are here every week. Click on the links below. I'm getting jumbled. It's been a long and awesome episode. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, y'all.